No, you did. So, Kevin, again, sticking with you for a minute, and this is like lightning around the last question, right? Like, where do you see privacy and the consumer going in calendar year 2021?
Is that back to me?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going out of order now. Okay. See, before I got to think about this. So
No, now you're on the spot.
Welcome to my world.
Well, I think, and I am an attorney. I think we're not going to keep attorneys out of the description, but I think we need to have two sets. One that you let the attorneys write the damn thing, and then we have another one in actual English that people can understand. Because part of your job as an attorney is interpreting all this legalese and all this nonsense. And I've seen some where you can take 2 pages of this legal document and boil it down into probably 3 or 4 sentences, and that's the core. I think one of the things, if we are looking at transparency, we need to tell people exactly what it is. This is what we get. Here's this bullet list. Here's the location data that we're taking from you. If we're using facial recognition, here are the possibilities. You can turn it, and I think people need to have to opt in rather than have to opt out of everything. And I think we're heading that direction. Also, data breach, that's just something we've got to understand and got to live with. I think password resets. I still have one login that's an 8-character. It won't let me have anything else. 8 characters. That is crazy that we still have this setting out here. But for that, I think we definitely need education. We need transparency. We need to boil things down into the simplest terms. So how do we get that out to most people? I still think we're going to struggle with getting people to take the time out of their day to actually look at something and make an informed decision.
Yeah, great thoughts. So going in counterclockwise direction. So coming back to Brian, coming back to you, which is just what Kevin mentioned, which is making it transparent. And I use this example all the time because for me, it's every time I think about, should I be putting this on Evernote or not? All I have to do is go and think of those 10-second privacy policy. Your data is yours. Your data is portable. Your data is protected. That's it, right? So that gives me the confidence that, yes, I'm not going to put my social security number on Evernote, but if there is a meeting scheduled, I'm happy to put it over there because I can port it. They're not going to share it with a third-party data broker, and they're doing their best to protect it, right? So why aren't more companies able to do what Evernote is doing?
Because there's not a demand. The more I keep coming through this, I'm thinking now, like, we need like the food, the nutrition labels, right? Like I was thinking like we need the National Traffic, the Highway Safety Board, we need the FAA, we need the USDA. I think part of it is the consumer's not asking or demanding for it, right? So back to Kevin's point around awareness, that we have to educate. I think, Heather, you touched on that too. The community has to be educated and aware of what that risk that you just explained is. And then do we need, in the risk of saying a more regulated environment, but do we need an agency that has that nutrition label, that food safety label on every app that covers those things, right? Do I want to eat this? Do I want to use this app? So I don't know, maybe it's almost dinner time. I've got too many food analogies for this talk.
So Heather, 90 seconds for you in terms of what do you think privacy and the consumer is going to look like in 2021?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with my security awareness for the end user. I think that like what Brian touched on is that companies aren't doing this because there's not a demand, and people aren't demanding it because they're not educated enough. I think you see security awareness growing, security awareness training growing as an industry, and over the next 10 years, it's going to continue to grow. I think that really there needs to be an effort and a focus on making sure that training is effective. And it's not just here, watch this PowerPoint and let's check the box that we're in compliance. It needs to be something that's effective and it's changing behaviors and of the end user. So I think that, really focusing on security awareness is where we need to go.
Helen, take us to the finish line.
So I think a couple of things for me. One is I would expect that we might finally see some national breach and privacy legislation at the US federal level, maybe this year, thanks to things like SolarWinds, but also just generally sort of public sentiment and agitation for the security and privacy committees at this patchwork of 50 states and multiple jurisdictions and multiple reporting requirements just isn't easy for anybody. So I think we can see that. I think the other thing more in the privacy space, you know, the US has been really not like many other countries on the planet in that they've really allowed companies to make decisions about how to manage data and not assume that it's the individual who owns it and really bears the consequences of mishandling. And I think, but it might be wishful thinking on my part, but I think we're going to see, as we see these national privacy and breach legislations, I think you'll start to see the ownership of data move away from the companies and back to the individuals. And then the companies have increased liability for handling and being custodians of that data. It might be wishful thinking on my part, but that's where I think it's going to head, even here in the US. So we'll see.
Yeah, great final thoughts. Again, thanks for your time, Helen, Heather, Brian, and Kevin, and looking forward to future discussions.
Thank you.